Easter's almost here, so for all of you that celebrate today, I made a cute bunny cake. So this is actually the second bunny cake that I'm making for Easter for a video, because my first bunny cake, I was super proactive. I did everything really early this time. I went to edit my video and half of the footage was missing. I don't know what it is that I do. I have really bad luck with technology as a whole. I always seem to break things or lose data consistently. So I was actually just used to it this time, gave up and made an entirely new bunny cake for you guys this week. Sorry I didn't have a video last week, but hopefully you like this bunny instead. To begin making this cake, although my bunny is just plain old white from the outside, he's super bright and colorful on the inside. I made him out of two 6-inch cakes dyed yellow and lime green. Then I made two 4-inch cakes dyed pink and purple. Then I made two 6-inch half spheres for his or her head blue and orange. I leveled the cakes and showered them in simple syrup, and it's a good thing I did because I got so busy that this cake took me way longer to do than I had actually planned. And you can tell by my multiple outfit changes. I started to put the cakes together by putting two 6-inch cakes at the bottom and the two 4-inch cakes on top of it to create the shape of the bunny, and fill the cake in with vanilla American buttercream. Once my cake was filled, I put it in the cake for 20 minutes so that it would harden a bit before I attempted to sculpt this cake. I actually tried out a new recipe for this cake and it was a little bit more crumbly than I'm used to, so sorry if things get a little bit messy. Now, I didn't draw out my cake and create a template like I probably should have, which would have made my life a lot easier. I just like to make my life more difficult unnecessarily. Once my cake was more firm from being inside the fridge, I began to carve out my shape. I made it into a bit of a pear shape, but then cut out the front portion a bit to make his tummy and his legs, or his thighs, stick out a bit. Just keep carving until you get the shape that you want. Make sure to take off only a little bit at a time. It's easier to take off than it is to put things back on. And again, if you have a stencil, this would be a lot easier. I then started to make the head so that I could get a better idea of what the bunny would actually look like. I put some icing in between the two half spheres and put them together. I cut up a tiny little bit off the bottom of one half sphere so that the cake wouldn't roll right off the top. Then I started to carve the head, making it a little bit wider on the side for his cheeks and smaller on top for the top of his head. Before putting it on the cake, I made sure to put some dowels into the cake to make sure his head wouldn't sink into the cake. I put one long one in the center and 3 to 4 around it so that the cake will sit on these instead of the cake. I cut them to the size of the cake and then put a small board on top of them so that the head will sit on the board. I always like to use bubble tea straws or dowels into the cake at least every 4 to 5 layers, just in case. The higher your cake gets, the more likely it is to sink or to start tipping over. So if you have dowels in the cake, it will really help your cake not to sink, and you don't want a bunny looking fatter and fatter and fatter because the head is sinking in. I then added the head on top, allowing the straw to go right through the head so it holds it in place. Once you're here, you can continue carving until you get the shape that you like. I then gave this cake a quick crumb coat to hold in all the crumbs and put it in the fridge for 30 minutes. Once I took it out of the fridge, I again decided to change the shape a bit and then re-crumb coated it and put it back in the fridge. Again, make sure to only take off a little bit at a time, and then you can always change your mind later like I did. We don't actually celebrate Easter in our house, but I would love to know what you guys do on Easter and what traditions you have every year. Let me know in the comments below. Although I didn't celebrate, I used to love making those tie-dye eggs, and we did a lot of arts and crafts for Easter in school, which was so much fun. And I remember my dad used to bring home those giant chocolate bunnies that were just solid milk chocolate, and they used to sit in our fridge for a very, very long time because each of us had one, and they would just have chunks of bites out of them, and they would be there probably until the next Easter. While my cake is in the fridge, I start to make the fondant pieces. You can make these in advance so that your pieces harden before you put them on the cake. I started with the ears. I rolled out some white fondant mixed with a little bit of Tylose to make it dry faster, and rolled it somewhat thick so that I would be able to put a stick through it afterwards. I cut out 2 white ears. Again, this would have been easier and more consistent if you actually had a stencil. I then stuck a skewer right through it so that it would be able to stick into my bunny's head. I then added some light pink to the insides, which was much thinner, and then stuck it on with some water. For one of the ears, I curled over the ear a little bit and let it dry like this for a few hours. I then added 2 balls of fondant at the bottom of his thighs for his feet, which will be covered in icing as well. I then made a tiny little pink nose into a puffy looking triangle and 2 black circles for the eyes. I shaped out 2 pieces of fondant into what I thought the arms would look like. Remember, there will be icing being piped on top of these, so it doesn't have to be exact, but I wanted them to be even and on both sides. I used the cake as a guide to estimate how big the arm should be. At this point, I lifted my bunny off the current board and moved it to my final cake board, already covered in green fondant. Then I cut out a little oval in pink for its belly and stuck it right in the middle with some icing. I then used white American vanilla buttercream, put it in an icing bag, and used Wilton tip number 18 to make the fur. You can also use the grass tip to do this, but in an effort to save my hands, I used this tip instead. Make sure you take breaks when icing your cake, your hands might start to hurt a lot. I piped fur all over the feet, body, and head, trying to go into the direction that I wanted the fur to go in. I also love doing scavenger hunts, and there's one time that will just not escape my memory. I'll tell you the story while you're watching me ice this cake. I was 7 years old, I was in Pakistan visiting family, and we decided to do a scavenger hunt, and it was nighttime, and my family over there lives on a pretty big complex where there's a few houses and there's a big garden and there's a big patio. So these candies were everywhere, and we were doing it at nighttime, and I was super competitive, and I was like, I'm gonna get all the candies. And I went and collected so many, and I came back and I had 2 palmfuls. I was like, look how many I got. And I went into the light and I looked at my hands, and there were a pile of snails in my hand. Instead of collecting the candies, I collected all snails. Ugh, it was so disgusting. I didn't even realize at the time. In my defense, it was really dark. Oh my gosh. Needless to say, I do not want to do scavenger hunts in the garden anymore. Ugh. Before my bunny starts to melt, I put it in the fridge while I work on my carrot. I used some orange fondant and rolled it out into a carrot shape and used a straight edge to carve some lines into the carrot to make it look more carrot-like. I cut the bottom of the carrot off so that it will stand up on the board on its own. Then I attached the arms with some toothpicks and continued to pipe icing all over the arms. I cannot believe it's been an entire year of me being on YouTube. It's my YouTube anniversary this month, and it's just been such a whirlwind. It's been so much fun. I've learned so much this year about photography and cameras and editing and cake decorating and social media. It's been such a whirlwind, and it's been amazing. Thank you so much to all of you who've subscribed and liked and commented and just watched my videos and who supported me this entire time. You guys are amazing. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It really does help me so I know if you guys are watching and if you like these videos. And if you have any suggestions about anything that I do, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much, guys. It's been awesome. Then I start adding my features. I made some green leaves for the carrot by using some green fondant and a leaf cutter, and used my little veining mat to make the leaves look a little bit more realistic. I then added the ears to the top of my bunny's head. I thought that one ear was a little bit too long, so I took it off, cut off a little bit of the bottom, and put it right back on, trying to make sure that both ears are even. Once I was happy with the size, I iced all of the white parts of my ears and put the cake back in the fridge to cool. I added the carrot right in front of the bunny as if he was holding it, and then added the leaves to the top. I used my fondant extruder and some light gray fondant to make some whiskers so that they're all even, and cut them into even smaller pieces. And then added 2 little white catch lights into his eyes. And then of course for its tail, I added a small ball of pink fondant at the back, and then used tiny scissors to cut out little slits into the circle all over it to make it look like a ball of fur. And that's it, my adorable 3D buttercream bunny cake. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't seen my last year's video on me making Easter treats with my adorable niece, Safina, please click on that video right over here. It's a whole bunch of Easter treats that you can make on your Easter weekend. And I cannot believe that she is a year older. She's 4 years old now. Man, time just flew right by. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel by clicking on my face right over here. Have a wonderful Easter weekend, everybody. Bye.